Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So we'll be starting session in another a minute. So we can see still participants are joining. So good afternoon and good morning, everyone. So once again, welcome to AZ104 event. Today we are discussing about a interesting topic. It's called Azure networking. So you may be heard about networking concept on in a real time or a on-premises one, right? What is the use of a networking? So can you just comment it on the chat? So what is the use of a networking? So have you heard about a concept of networking in your existing scenario? Yes. So thank you, Zania. It's been like making a connectivity each other. Okay, that's been great. Server or a PC or a link. Yes. So basically, if you are taking any infrastructure, wherever you are seeing in networking, you are making a interconnection of devices, right? This can be between servers, or this can be between servers and database. This can be between network device to network device. This can be from a server to network device. So ultimate aim, it's been like share to resources, sharing your data or interconnecting each other. So that is the main purpose of a networking. Now all of us are working on an existing um, data center or a data room. Can you comment it on the chat? What are the components generally we are using on in a on-premises scenario? In someone want to make a communication each other in a legacy model, what are the different components we are using? Now, if you take a existing scenario here, let me share my screen. So we are getting few answers. Exactly. So we need to have a IP address. IP address is one of the component we need for communicate each other. You need to have a network interface card, right? So we need to have a so we need to have a network interface card. You need to have a network devices hub. switch, routers. We need to have a cables. We need to have a RJ45 or RJ11 cables we are using. We need to have a routing protocols, right? We need to have a routing protocols. Right? So you may be able to see there are many components generally we are using in a normal scenario, which includes LAN, end devices, LAN server connectivity. So if you take all this scenario in an on-premises one, you are using a physical devices. Now we were discussing about a moving to a cloud. Now I'm getting a question here. How do I use all these components on in a cloud scenario? Because in a cloud we understood everything, it's been working in a virtual mode here. So we are discussing, we are trying to understand how the infrastructure is been working on in a cloud scenario. What are the options we have? How routing protocols can be enabled, how router can be configured, how the connectivity can be made inside on in a cloud scenario here. So we are trying to discuss about a topic called Azure networking, how networking can be enabled on in a cloud scenario. Now, when it is coming on in a Azure side, we'll start with the public IP address first. Before moving that, let's understand few couple of uh, theory part. Then we'll go to the practical side of this. So all of us is already understood. Basically, networking is been using for making a connectivity. So end of this training program, you will be able to understand about the core network resources. Currently, it's been participating in a um, Azure or in a cloud scenario. We'll discuss about different components inside that. We'll discuss about two VPN components. One is called a VPN gateway. We'll try to understand how directly we can able to connect your Office and a cloud. There is a concept called Azure Express Route, and we'll go through a couple of network components, usage and benefit and services also. All these exam has been connecting with a topic called AZ900 and AZ104 program. So this topic currently we are discussing, this we are taken from an official curriculum of AZ900 and 104 exam. So we'll discuss one by one how this can be able to made it here. So I'm just giving a scenario here. All of us are working for a organization. Let's take an organization name is called apple.com. So you all are working for an organization called apple.com. So in apple.com, we have a different offices are available. For example, like you have a multiple branches or a on-premises data center and data room is been available. End of this program, your boss told you attended AZ104 program. Where can we go and migrate this your infrastructure into a cloud? So part of your office or part of this scenario, you need to make some migration strategy that will help you to migrate your existing infrastructure to a cloud. So that is the first task we have. But the second concerns we have, it's been like once you migrated into a cloud, we need to have some um, approachable network solutions, mean to ensure that all the users are able to connect each other. We need to ensure that a user is not finding any kind of a network difficulty for a connecting each other. So we need to make sure that all the server branches of is connected is been migrated into a cloud. So this is the first case study we are taking. Now, second case study we are taking, it's been like when you are migrated onto a cloud, customer is been not migrating their entire infrastructure. uh, they are in a kind of a situation, 20 percentage of their solution needs to be uh, available in the on premises, only 80 percentage they are migrating. So they need to have some kind of a connectivity between on premises and a cloud. So we'll discuss about how the hybrid connectivity can be made. Hybrid connectivity means that you are making a network solution which will allow you to connect on premises solution as well as the cloud solution also. So we'll have a discussion about how the connectivity on in a cloud can be able to made it here. So these are the two case studies. currently we are making. So one scenario it's been like you're doing a lift and shift. Second scenario it's been like we are trying to make it an motion of migrating into a cloud scenario. So these are the two um, case studies we are just trying to consider here. So now before moving to understand about this case, we need to understand what are the network offerings currently you have from a cloud. Now, when you connect to Microsoft portal, you may be able to see or you maybe notice already there is a couple of offerings you have it on in a Azure side. So when you entered into a cloud, all services, you may be seeing like almost 35 plus services Microsoft has been offering on in a cloud side. Let me take you into a cloud portal here, where you can able to see all the network offerings which currently you have it on in a cloud side. Let me connect you to a portal here. Give me a second. Let me connect to a portal here. Let me give my credential details. My credential having some issues today, so I'm just taking my friend ID for connecting here. Give me a second. So my subscription has been added and it has been not listing. So just give me a second. So I have requested my friend to give an ID, and with this ID, I'm just connecting today. Give me a second. So you can able to see 9260. So right now I've been connected to a Microsoft portal. I hope you can able to see the portal window is been loading here. So you can able to see the cloud portal is been available here. So you can able to see the cloud portal. Now we were discussing about a concept. It's been about you can able to see like the portal is here. So I was discussing about network offerings which currently you are getting from Microsoft. So when you click on the resource panel, left side you are able to see a tab called all services. The moment when you click on the all services, on the right side, this will be listing all the services currently Microsoft is been offering. Now, the moment when you click on the networking session here, this will be displaying you all the services currently you can able to host or you can able to configure on in a network category. You may be able to see almost 35 plus services here, which include VNet, load balancers, routing table, public IP address, DNS zones or IP address. All this information you can able to get it from here. So, end of the session, you need to understand Microsoft is been capable to provide almost 35 plus services related to the networking side. So we'll try to understand one by one how this can be able to configure it here. We'll try to see configuring a couple of network services also here. Certificate will be sending you to an email ID. The people who is already registered in the attendance form, there already we have been captured your name, email ID and mobile number. So end of the program, you will be getting your certificates. Right now, let's go back to the topic here. So right now we understood when you discuss about a networking side, almost 35 plus services we currently it's been hosted on in a cloud side here, and we are trying to understand one by one. Now, before moving on into that, so almost we had a quick casual discussion on the need of a virtual networking. Already, we already got an answer on the chat saying that basically the need of a networking, whether it's been on in a real time or whether it's been on in a virtual networking, the purpose has been basically for a data exchange, right? exchanging a data from a on premises or in a different components who's been participating on in the network. So basically this has been allowing us for communicating each other through the network concept here. Right now on the screen, you are able to see a top view of uh, networking here. If someone has been want to understand its top view, or it's been like different components who's been participating that. Right now on the screen, you are able to see a cloud networking top view. When we had a discussion on the on-premises one, you already seen a option. It's been like um, understood a concept like a different components is been participating, right? You may be seeing like you have a router, routing protocol, network devices, you have a different servers is been participating. Now, and a question is been coming here. What are the different components currently you have it on in a Azure side or in a cloud side? Now, if you take a Azure cloud side, you may be able to see there are many components is been involved here, which include VNIC. You can able to see there is a DNS is involved here. So this is a top view of a networking here. You can able to see DNS is involved here. You have internet is been coming. You have a name resolution concept is been coming here. You have a load balancer or a application gateway has been coming to picture here. You have something called an internal firewall that's called a NSG, or an external firewall has been working with the help of a concept called Azure firewall. You have a load balancer has been present here. You have a availability set has been present here, and you have a different subnet also it's been present. So almost a 35 plus service who's been participating in making a networking for your solution. So all these components, if you're taking here, all it's been configured in a virtual mode. Whether we had a discussion on in a on-premises, you may be noticed whether it's been a firewall or a router or it's been like other component. Physically, that device or asset has been participated in the network solution. But when it is coming here, all the solution we have been configured in a virtual mode. So we'll discuss one by one how this has been practically it's been configured here. Now, if you go back to a situation here, let's try to understand what are the capabilities you are trying to get it from an Azure network. If you are using Azure network, how generally uh, uh, it's benefiting for us for a real-time scenario. Now, if you take a network capabilities here, generally used to get it isolation and segmentation. You need to have a network communication. You need to have a getting a um, flexibility to connect between a different Azure resources. This will allow you to connect with the on-premises solution. You have an option for routing. You have an option for configuring filtering here. So these are the few benefits, or there are few network capabilities you are getting with the help of Azure networking here. Now, let's start with the first option. Now, if you take a Microsoft Azure, by default, if you're configuring any resource on in a Azure, for example, like if you configured a VM, by default, that has been assigned with a public IP address or a public load balancer. By default, all the resources which has been configured on in a cloud, it's got an internet connection. The meaning is, if you configure a VM on in a cloud, by default, all these VMs is been configured with a public IP address. So this will allow you to, or this getting a flexibility for the user or a resource to connect into cloud. So you have an option to connect to a cloud. So by default, all the resource has been configured on in a uh, infrastructure. You will have an option to connect to a internet. Now, in a real-time scenario or in a production scenario, uh, we will be limiting the network access. When you go back to a real-time scenario, we will not allow internet connection or will not be assigning a public IP address to all the resources here. The reason it's been like, if you're assigning a public IP address to all the resource, there is a chance of exposing your network infrastructure into a internet. So for a security purpose, we don't want to do any kind of a security compromise on in the network side. So we'll ensure that the solution which you are using on in a cloud, always it's been configured with a um, configuration of um, limiting the public IP address or a internet which is been currently it's been available on in the cloud. So always will ensure that the servers or it's been like the component which you are using it's been limited on in the cloud side. So this important point you need to remember. So always we need to have a limited connectivity on the internet connection. Now if you're taking a network capability, by default all the resources means that it can be SQL database, or it can be a storage, or it can be a resources which has been available on Azure. By default all this has been communicated each other. So by default you have a flexibility to communicate each other within a or with the help of a virtual network. So generally if you take a SQL database or a storage, this generally it's been communicated with the help of a concept called service endpoints. Service endpoints is the term generally we are using in a cloud infrastructure. So in case if you want to communicate each other, uh, it's been made with the help of a service endpoints here. So when you go for in a Azure network, by default whatever components it's been configured, if it is on in a same region or a different region, you have a flexibility to communicate each other. If the resource is being hosted in a different data center, especially the term or a terminology we are using on in a cloud, that basically known as Azure region. If the resource is being hosted in a different region, we used to have a concept of VNet peering. There is a concept we are going to use it that's called VNet peering. For example, like if you have a one resource is been hosted in a East US data center, and other resource you've been hosted in a West US data center. So if you want to communicate this data center each other, you may have to enable a feature called VNet peering. We'll be discussing that point. Nothing to worry about that. Now, when it is coming on in a connecting to a on-premises solution, I was giving a scenario like there are some situation if the customer may be um, not willing to upgrade all the resource. Basically that upgradation is generally knowing as lift and shift. Lift and shift. Now I'm just giving a scenario like you are in a customer place. Customer is been not ready for a lift and shift. Lift and shift means that the customer is been not ready or not willing to completely move the infrastructure to a cloud. So that kind of a situation, customer may be holding 20 percentage of their infrastructure on the existing um, customer place. So that kind of a situation, you need to have a well encrypted channel to be available that will help you to communicate with a on-premises solution. So in a customer place, where you want to connect your data center and your cloud infrastructure. I'm just giving a scenario. For example, like if you want to connect each other, if you want to use it each other, or if you want to connect each other, then you can able to go for a concept called VPN. For example, like if you want to connect your on-premises data center with a cloud, we will be using a concept called VPN. So VPN will be allowing uh, us to connect on-premises data center with a cloud. There are different mode you can able to configure VPN on in a Microsoft Azure. Uh, you may be remembering like when you had a pandemic time, like a few years before, last year we had a COVID was badly affecting us. So that time we all were doing work from home concept, right? So that time you may be remembering like in case if you want to connect to office network, we used to connect using a VPN client. So that means you are making a secure connection from your home to a client here, right? So in case in a Azure side, if you want to configure a VPN, there are three mode you can able to configure. One is being knowing as a point to site. Second one is called a P2S. The VPN currently it's been supported. It's called P2S, and in a P2S, individual user to cloud infrastructure is been configured, and you have an office to connect the entire office into a cloud also. That basically is knowing as S2S. That's called a site to site VPN. and you have something called a dedicated connection that basically is been knowing as a Azure Express route. So you have a three options been available. So in case if you want to connect each other, uh, in case if you want to make a encrypted, secured connectivity between your data room and data center with a cloud, you can able to use a concept called VPN. VPN is been stands for Virtual Private Network. How this has been configured? When it is taking in a Azure scenario, you have a three mode you can able to configure. One is called a P2S, S2S, and Express route. I think let me answer one of the common query right now I can able to see on in the chat that may be distracting many of the people. Um, all the PDF copy of the session recording will be provided to you and will be the course material will be shared on the Discord channel and the course material will be shared on the WhatsApp group also. So no need to post the same question again and again. You will be getting a material. Don't worry about that. And who has been registered for this in the attendance form, they will be getting a participate certificate for that. And right now we are not providing any exam voucher for that. So any questions? Any general question on that? We'll be providing on in a WhatsApp group. We'll be providing on in a Discord channel also the course material and the handout and the PDF of the session. I hope it's been cleared now. Thank you. And let's move to the next part. Now, coming on into the routing part, you may be remembering like when we had a discussion on in a on-premises one, you may be heard about a couple of routing protocols, right? You may be worked on HP routers or a Cisco routers. You may be heard about a couple of routing protocols like RIP, that is not rest in peace, basically known as routing information protocol. You may be heard about something called IGRP. You may be heard about EAGRP. You may be heard about BGP. You may be heard about OSPF. So these are the few routing protocol. We used to use it in a on-premises scenario on the physical route. Now, when it is coming on in a cloud scenario, basically we are using a three type of routing methods here. If you take Azure Cloud, routing is being enabled with the help of a three mode. One, it's been like by default, Microsoft has been enabled a system route. By default, Microsoft is enabled a couple of routing protocols and routes has been by default has been enabled. So that basically knowing as a system route. Second one, it's been like we can able to configure a manual route also. That basically known as UDR. Is basically knowing as a UDR. That's called user defined routing. Manually, I can able to define my source. Manually, I can able to define my path, or I can able to define my destination through which router the packet needs to go. From where I need to start originate the packet through will be my next hop. Basically, there is a concept called network hop. So all this information manually I can able to configure as a user. I can able to configure manually. That basically known as user defined route. How this has been configuring? It's been configuring with the help of a feature called routing tables. You have a flexibility to configure something called routing tables. With the help of a routing table, you have an option to communicate or you have an option to um, configure routing. Other than that, you have a concept of BGP also it's been available. It's been knowing as border gateway protocol. This basically configuring on in the VPN gateway level. So in a nutshell, in an overall summary, if you are taking, Microsoft has been supporting three type of a routing here. One has been like a user defined route, and you have a system route has been available, and you have a BGP also has been available. That's called border gateway protocol. So all these components or these features are using for making a routing on in a cloud scenario. Routing means that it's basically helping us to take a shortest path from one location to another location. Now, coming on into the filtering side, for example, like if you want to make some kind of a traffic management, I need to enable that only particular protocol or a port, or I need to make some kind of a restriction on in a communication. For making a filtering or for making a traffic management, we used to use two internal components here. One is being knowing as NSG, that's called a network security group, and second one is being knowing as NVA, that's called a network virtual appliance. So this basically it's been configuring on in a subnet level, or this can be able to configure in a VNIC level also. With the help of these two feature, this will act like an internal firewall. What is the use of this method? Basically, this has been um, available, or it's been helping us to do some kind of a traffic management. Why we are doing a traffic management? Because we need to ensure that the communication inside your infrastructure is being secured. The communication inside your Azure, it's been monitored, ensured on that right protocol or a right packet only, it's been traveled from one network to another network. How this is being defined? This is being defined with the help of a two components here. One is called NSG and second one is been knowing as a NBA also. So this basically will be discussing this portion, how this can be enabled here. Now coming on into the connectivity, you may be remembering like when you were taking a concept of connecting different offices on in a on-premises scenario, uh, you may be using the concept of router, right? So router is was helping us for connecting one office to another office, or this will be helping us for a routing also. Now, when you take a Microsoft Azure scenario, you may be implementing your resource, Azure resource on in a different regions. So you are maybe configuring one server maybe in a East US region, or you may be configured on a West US region, or a different data center you may be configuring. Now, how this can be able to connect each other? For example, like I have a one database server is been hosted in the East US data center, but my application is been hosted in the Switzerland or in a Sweden or a South Africa. I need to make some kind of a connectivity, or I need to make some kind of a communication between my uh, South Africa server with the server which is been hosted in the East US data center. How this has been made? This has been made with the help of a concept called peering. For example, like in case if you want to communicate different regions or a different data center, you can able to configure on in a peering part. So this will help you. There are two ways you can able to configure here. That's basically the concept is been using called global VNet peering, and second one is been knowing as a regional VNet peering. There are two concepts you can be able to use it on in a customer place. So peering has been allowing us to connect each other. So that's with the help of a VNet peering, we can able to make a communication each other here. Now these are the few important points on in the network side. So I'm getting an answer on in the chat. Can you explain me what is a load balancer? So we got a question on in a chat. So let me put in this way. For example, like you are working on in an organization. For example, like let me take you into whiteboard. Give me a second. I hope you can able to see a whiteboard here. Can you just confirm on the chat option? So load balancer is basically, yes, okay, thank you. So from the name itself, you may be able to identify what is the use of a load balancer, right? Load balance. What do you mean load balance, right? You are making a balancing of your load. So how this has been working? Let me take a scenario here. You have configured a application inside in your network. So this application, let's take, it's been configured a web server. So obviously you need to have a server is being needed. In this server, you are configuring IAS, or if you're using a Unix, you may be having a Apache kind of a software is been using. So, and this is been connected to a application. This is, for example, like you take as a Facebook server. Now I'm a user here. I'm not a good drawer. Okay. This is me. Okay. I'll write it here. Otherwise you will think, what is this? You may think that it is a disk. It's not a disk. This is a me. It's me. I'm trying to connect to this application server. So how generally I'll be connecting? I'll be connecting to an internet. I'll be connecting to this server, and this application is being accessed. Is been clear to everyone? If you're yes, can you just put a single comment on the chat? Otherwise, I may think you people are been sleeping. So if you can just put a single comment if you're good, that's been great. So Prince, thank you, Prince. Yes. Thank you, Jananthan. And yeah, that's been great. Now you take a scenario here. We are getting many such requests from a client. I have a Jonathan has been accessing, Prince has been accessing, we have Kamal has been accessing, you have a Samesh is asking, everyone has been. So what will happen to a server if all are together at the same time? If it is accessing a single server, technically what will happen? Can you comment it on the chat? This symbol in your office, everyone has been connecting to you, right? You will be overload, right? Finally you'll tell, sorry boss, I'm going, everyone has been disturbing me, right? So this is the problem here. Now yes, this may be a chance of server hanging, there is a chance of crashing, there is a chance of like it's been overloading also. So too much traffic has been coming on into the, yes, exactly, Samesh, similar like a concept of DDoS here. Now for avoiding this kind of a scenario in an organization, we will be using a concept of load balancers. Means same server, you will be implementing multiple servers. In the backend, you have a application is been running. Now instead of user is been connecting directly onto any of the server, in between your server and your user, you will be installing something called load balancer. What this load balancer will do? Only for this load balancer will have public IP address, and internally this will connect to all these servers using a private IP address. There will not be any public IP address assigned to your internal machine. So if any user has been connecting, if anyone has been connecting to a application like a cloud hub.com, your load balancer will receive, your load balancer will distribute the load. First it may distribute to this server, then it will need to configure the second server. How this will be distributing the load? In all LB, if you're taking all load balancer, there will be a load balancing rule will be configured. So this will be defined how the data needs to be distributed and what is the frequency you want. All this has been defined in a LB rule. Then there will be something called as in a Azure called health probe also. Health probe means that you have a multiple server is been available here. So Microsoft will ensure status or health of all this VM. We need to ensure that all the VM, or it's been like servers currently has been using, all this is been knowing as backend pools. It's called backend pool. So whatever servers currently has been part of your backend pool are healthy, it's been defined with the health of a health probe. So LB will use in a frequent interval with the health probe. Microsoft will do a TCP handshake with all the servers here, will ensure that all the VM who's been participating on the backend is been healthy. Now after that, if any request has been receiving on in the load balancer, based on how what is the rule you have been configured on the load balancing rule, it will be distributed. In a nutshell, load balancers are using for doing a traffic management. Is it clear now? In a simple way. Okay. So there are different way we can able to configure. If you take a Microsoft Azure, there are two way we can able to configure LB. One is being knowing as basic mode. Second one is being knowing as a standard mode. Also, there are two SKUs are available for um, Microsoft Azure. So nothing to worry. Basically, you need to understand it's been using for a load balancer between you. I hope it's been clear now. Any further questions? I hope you are able to follow also. Yes, basically, it's between an application and server, you will have a load balancer summation. And basically, if you take a complex infrastructure, you may be having a firewall also, it's been coming in between. So it will ensure that only the right traffic is been moved into the load balancer. So we'll have a firewall also will be available on the perimeter network. Clear? Any other questions? Any general questions you have? We can have a discussion on that. If you're good, we'll move to a public IP address creation. How to create a public IP address and how we can able to assign a private IP address. We'll have a discussion on that. If you're good, can you just put a single comment on the chat so we can able to move to the first topic that's called public IP address on the network side. What are the type of load balancings like a Chris? When it is coming on an Azure side, you will be able to see there are two type of uh, load balancing based on how it's been working here. It's been like one is been knowing as a basic load balancer. Second one is been knowing as a standard also. It depends upon how your backend pool is being configured, whether it's been configured on in a availability set or whether it can be configured as a individual server. Based on that, we can able to use load balancers. So there's a two type you can able to see on in a Microsoft side. So basically, it's been working on in a layer 4, or it's been using. So basically, it's been using for a traffic management here. Basically, it's been using for a traffic management. Basically, it's been for distributing the load. We are using a load balancers on in a cloud side, and it can be not only the load balancing. This will ensure that availability also for your application, because if something is been goes wrong, you have a second way of or the additional server will be available for application. So we cannot say only for load balancing. This is basically using for providing availability and scalability, and it's been for providing a um, ensurity for your application also. So we'll do one thing. We'll take a 5 minutes break and we'll come back. And after break, we'll start with the public IP address configuration, how to assign a public IP address, how to attach to a public IP address to a VM. So this kind of topic we'll discuss after a small break. So let's go on into the small break on the, let's take a small break. And after break, we are moving on into the So let's start. So we were discussing about a concept of networking here. So we are starting with the first topic called how to assign an IP address. So let's start with the concept how to assign a public IP address or how to assign an IP address here. So when we had a discussion about Azure Fundamentals, or you may be already familiar with the concept of IP address in a normal way, right? How generally it's been working for in a normal infrastructure. IP address has been mandatory that you need to have a for making a communication. IP address has been mandatory. So the first point you need to remember here, when you take a Azure, it's been supporting IP version 4 as well as IP version 6. Whether if you're going for configuring a private IP address or a public IP address, it's been supporting both the mode. Depends upon the customer requirement. You can go for a IP version 6, or you have an option to go for IP version 6 also. Both the mode it's been supporting. Now, if you take a IP address on a IP version 4, you may be um, learned about different classification, right? So you may be learned like when you had when we were studying on in a college or in a normally in your operation. In a IP version 4, you may be already familiar that it's been classified as class A, class B, or a class C, class D, or a class A. If you take a class A, IP address has been generally started from 0 to give me a second. Take class B, it's been starting from 128.0.2, 191.255.255. Class C has been 0.2, 223.255.255.255, 239.55 has been 240.0.0.2, 254.255.255.255. These are the IP address currently we are using on in normal scenarios here. Now, if you take all this IP address, basically all this IP address is being managed by an organization called IANA. Have you heard about this organization? It's basically known as Internet as a Number Authority here. Now, if you take this IP address here, we have been starting from 0 to 255. We are not going to use all this IP address on internet. If you take a class A to class C, we cannot use all this IP address in internet. Again, this IP address is being classified as two category. One is being known as a public IP address. Second one is being known as a private IP address. There are two classifications we have done. Any IP address which you can able to use. Right now, the IP address is been starting from A to A here. Now, we are not going to use all this IP address on internet here. So what IANA has been done, they have been assigned a set of IP address. Very clearly, they have been defined a policy saying that we cannot use all the IP address on in the internet. Only one set of IP address only allowed to use in internet. That basically is being known as a public IP address. Or in another term, we are allowed to route only a particular set of IP address here. So only one set of IP address only is been only routable in internet. That basically is been knowing as public IP address. Any IP address which you can use internally or in an office, there is no charge is been available. That basically is been knowing as private IP address. So it's been completely free. So there is a one set of IP address is always is been free, and public IP address there is a charge or a cost is been available. In case if you want to use the internet, there is a charge is been available. You may be remembering here in your home, you may be using an internet connection, right? How internet connection is been made in your home? You may be using a Wi-Fi access point, right? You may be having Wi-Fi access point. This is your access point. Now internally, your laptop is been connected to this access point. Your partner laptop or mobile is been connected. Your mobile also is maybe connected here. Can you go to command prompt and type ipconfig now? Can you comment what is the IP address you are getting? Just go to command prompt and type ipconfig. Can you connect it on in the chat window? Just type ipconfig and type what is the answer you are getting. Can you just comment it on the chat? Can you comment it? Yes. You may be able to see there is some pattern or a similarity here. Okay. Can you just check it? You may be able to see some similarity here. You can just able to see here. You may be able to see uh, we have a people connected from Nigeria, India, and different uh, organization, because you may be able to see there is a common pattern here, right? You may be able to notice here. Um, there is a one similarity you can able to see here. You may be able to see there is a similarity here, right? You may be able to notice here everyone here has been got a one pattern here, right? Either it can be 192 series, or it's been 168 series, or it's been like 10 dot series. So technically what is happening, you got an internet from an internet service provider, only one public IP address only assigned to this access point. What your access point is being done? Access point is being internally assigned a one set of IP address. It can be 192.168 or 10 dot series. So there is no charge for here. Router has been assigned some IP address which is can be used internally. So that's been called as a private IP address here. Now, right now, can you click on an link here? Can you just click on this link and type the answer? I'm just pasting one link on the chat window. Can you just click on that link and type what is the answer you are getting? I just pasted one URL link on the chat here. Can you just click on the link and tell me what is the IP address you're getting? Just can you just post it on the chat? You may be able to see some difference over here. So you may be able to see there are different classification or unique number you may be getting here, right? A few people got 102, a few people got 41 series, a few people got uh, 102 different IP address you can able to see it here. So there's a different you can able to see on the notice here. So technically speaking, after hearing or after doing this two exercise, you maybe notice here only one set of IP address which you can use in internet, and second set is been uh, outside also. So it's basically known as public IP address and a private IP address. So any IP address unique and which you can able to use in internet, that's been basically is known as public IP address, and second one is been known as private IP address. If you take a private IP address classification here, you may be seeing a pattern here and the private IP address range if you are seeing here. So right now you may be understood any IP address which internally you can able to use, that's called a private IP address here. Now if you take a private IP address in a class A, you may be able to use 10.0.02, 10.255.255, 172.16.0.2, 172.31.255.255, or you can able to use 192.168.0.0.2, 192.168.255.255. These are the private IP address generally we are using internally. When it is coming on in a public IP address K, trust all IP address that will be used as a public IP address. So this has been completely, it's been free. This has been completely charge is been available. Public IP address is if you are taking Azure side, who will be using public IP address here? Whoever is mean at internet, where you have internet facing requirements if you have that kind of a situation, you will be using a public IP address. Now, when you take a Microsoft Azure, any virtual machine who needs an internet, they will have a public IP address being assigned. So that network interface card that will be assigned with a public IP address. And if you have any load balancers, uh, which has been configured in a internet facing mode, internet facing mode. If you're taking any load balancer, that can be configured internal mode as well as in a internet facing mode also. In case if your internet facing load balancer has been available in your organization, for that load balancer, you can able to assign a public IP address. Now, addition to that, in case if you're configuring any VPN gateway, in case if there is a VPN gateway has been available, you will be assigning a public IP address. If there is a application gateway has been configured, if there is any application gateways in place, you will be using a dynamic, you will be using a public IP address. In case if there is any Azure firewall, if you are using, that will have a public IP address. In case if you are using a Azure Bastion service, that service also having a public IP address. So these are the few components or a service generally use a public IP address in a Azure scenario. Now, if you take a private IP address or a public IP address, both can be configured in two mode. This can be configured in static mode, and this can be configured in a dynamic mode also. This can be configured in a automatic mode as well as it can be configured in a dynamic mode as well. I'm just posing here in case if you have any general questions, we can have a discussion. If you're good, we'll go for the configuration part of that. Any any questions from anyone? I'm just pausing here. So any questions from anyone? So I just got it two answers here. That's been good. Yes, similar way, IP version 6 also has been configured. That's been a bit complicated, Mr. Ek. So I can able to give you a document on that. IP version 6 is like where you need a large pool of IP addresses needed, that kind of a situation. We can able to go for IP version 6. Right now, I'm not focusing on IP version here since it's a fundamental and associate training. I don't want the people to get confused on the IP version 6. So they'll be get confused because we need to have a, so we are planning to have a separate session on IP version 6. Possible that time we can have a detailed discussion on that IP version 6 can be used here. So the way it's been configured, yes, uh, how generally it's been configured on IP version 6, similar way it's been configured, but the numbers has been different here. So that's the way it's generally it's been configured. So any questions? So we are getting another questions on the chat here. Um, can we assign a public IP address to a storage? In case if you've been configured a storage here, for example, there are different mode we can able to use. We can able to configure a static IP address for your storage AMR. Have option to configure that, especially like if you configured a blob storage, we have an option to configure the public IP address. There are different way the storage has been configured. That's called a blob, Azure file, uh, tables and all. It can be configured here. In case if you have blob storage, you have an option to assign a connectivity to this one here. So we have an option to configure public IP address to storage. So the moment when you configure a storage, there will be getting an option for that. So thank you. Let's go for creating a public IP address here. Now, right now we understood when you are using a IP address here, public IP address, the IP address which you can able to configure on in a services where you need a internet facing. So this right now we understood it's been assigned for a VM gateway firewall. So let's start with the VM here. Then we'll go for a creation for the other components here. Let me take you into Microsoft portal here. So the first lab currently we are going to see how the public IP address has been assigned to VM here. We'll see two way. One has been like how automatically this has been configured. Second method we'll see creation of a public IP address separately and assigning to a VM also. So the first case, I will install a VM here. So we'll try to create a VM here. We'll install a VM here. We'll create a VM here and we'll see how the IP address is being assigned to that, how public IP address is being assigned here. So let me connect into Microsoft portal here. There are different methods we can able to use on in a cloud. One, it's been like uh, public IP address is a separate resource here. Right now, if you can able to see the portal here, in case someone want to configure a public IP address, directly you can go to the marketplace here. There you can type public IP address and you can able to configure here. You can able to configure a public IP address directly here. There's a one method. Second method, along with your VM, public IP address can be configured also. Let's take a scenario here. We'll do one thing. Let me clear this resource group here. Okay. So that will help you to, otherwise you guys maybe get confused here. Give me a second. Let me clear this resource group here. Okay. Let me delete these components. Give me a minute time. Otherwise, you maybe get confused from where this resource is being created here. So let's wait a minute here. It's been initiating a decommissioning of a couple of resources here. So let's wait a minute. Right now the deletion is in progress yet, so we need to just wait. So right now the installation is in progress here. Yes, these recordings are available and it's been uploaded on the Discord and YouTube channel. Right now, there is some actions we are performing now, so you can able to see it's been uh, restoration is in progress here. So let's wait. It's been the deletion is in progress now. It will take another hardly 2 to 3 minutes. Right now you can able to see the resource group is been deletion is been cleared here. Let's create a VM here. So we are trying to see a different possibility of creating a public IP address, and this has been assigning to a VM here. So the first possibility, when you try to create a virtual machine here, I'm just trying to create a virtual machine here. Let's take a name is in a VM1 here. So right now I'm just creating a virtual machine here. I just given a name, it's been given as a cloud batch. VM name I given is been VM1 here. So I'll show you where you are going to select this public IP address here. For example, like I'm just creating in the East West data center. I just given operating system is Windows. Just given the operating system name here. Now your networking or a public IP address is being selected here. You can able to see there is a tab you can able to see on the top of here, something called networking tab. So right now we are discussing about how we can able to assign a public IP address. Right now we have learned the IP address which currently you are using, which you can able to use in internet. Now, if you can able to see here, the moment when you try to create a virtual machine here, in the networking tab, you may be able to see an option called public IP address here. So this is the place you can able to select an option called public IP address. So when you select this public IP address, you will be getting a drop down box here. The meaning of this one, it's been like, there are three ways you can able to create it here. The moment when you select it option none, what will happen? Your Microsoft will be creating a VM without a public IP address. You are informing Microsoft saying that, hey, Microsoft, I don't need any public IP address here. Public IP address, there is a charge has been available. So in case if you selected this option has been none, there won't be any public IP address will be assigned at the time of the VM creation. Now you may be wondering, what will happen in case tomorrow if I need to create? Yes, we have an alternate option has been available. In case in future if you want to assign, you can able to go and assign also. That's been different story. Now in that the time of a creation, if you're selecting option has been none, there won't be any public IP address will be assigned. Now if already if you have any IP address been available, you will be able to select that public IP address here. So right now you may be able to see it's been mentioned as VM1 hyphen IP, right? And in bracket, you may be able to see you're getting a message saying that new. The meaning it's been like it's informing admin, hey admin, currently there is no IP address is been available here. I'm creating a new IP address. That's the meaning of new here. So this is the first time it's been creating IP address here. That's the reason it's been showing us. This is the first time. Give me a second. Give me a second. Yeah. So in the first time, if you're creating a public IP address, generally this has been mentioned with a term called new. Only at the time of a creation, you may be able to see that new label here, but after creation, that label will be removed. So it's giving an indication to administrator saying that, hey, admin, we are creating a new IP address here. So I'm just selecting is a new here. So in case if I don't need the IP address, I'll go for the second option. So we'll see that option in the second part. Right now, I'm just selecting new here. That's all. Just review and create it here. Let's wait here. Right now, the VM creation has been in progress here. Let's create it here. we enabled a VM creation here. So we need to wait. Right now you can able to see deployment is being initiated here. So let's wait for that. So right now the deployment is in progress. So right now the deployment is been completed uh, here. Right now, if you go to virtual machine here, if you click on the virtual machine tab here, you may be able to see the VM1 is been created here. You can able to see the VM1 is been created here. Now, if you click on the VM1, right side, if you are going here, you may be able to see there is a public IP address is been assigned here. There is a public IP address is been assigned here. Now, if you click on the VM1, on the overview tab also, you can able to configure it here. You can able to see if you click on the VM1 here, you can able to see there is a public IP address is with assigned here. A couple of points you need to remember here. So by default, if you're not selected an option of public IP address here, by default the option if you're not selected here, by default IP address is been assigned into your VM here. So in a normal scenario, if you are taking a organization, right now we understood each public IP address is got a cost here. Now, if you go to an internet page here, if you do check a public IP address pricing, price IP Azure, you may be able to see there is a pricing is being involved for your public IP address. So in an organization, if you are taking right now, you can able to see the public IP address is being assigned in a per hour. Now, if you take an organization where you have a 10,000 VM is been hosted, all the 10,000 VM is been hosting with a public IP address, we may have to pay high amount into the cloud service provider. So in a normally in an organization scenario, they will be removing a public IP address from the VM for reducing a cost. We'll be using a couple of other mechanism which will allow you to connect to a VM using other features like something called Azure Bastion service or something called Azure Load Balancer or something called Azure Firewall, or you may be heard about another concept called gem server or a gateway server. This will allow you that you will be limiting your public IP address to the VM and you have an alternate option to provide a connectivity. So we'll be discussing that possible today or tomorrow. We'll be getting to that. So right now you need to be able to see here the VM currently it's been configured in a public IP address on into the VM here. A couple of points you need to remember here. Right now you may be noticed the public IP address is been assigned by the cloud service provider. So each region will have a different range. So whatever range you are able to see on the east to yes, may not be the same for the West US or Central India or other region like a South Africa or a East other country. So each region Microsoft has been assigned a set of pool of ranges here. Second point you need to remember, you cannot bring your own public IP address from your on premises. In case if you have already if you have a IP address is available here, you don't have any option to bring your own IP address. So there is no option of bringing. You cannot bring your own public IP address from your network. This is one important point. I just pasted that point on in the chat. Another point you need to remember here. Instead of using a uh, if you're using a IP address here, it's been completely region specific here. As I said, each region will have a different pool of IP addresses been coming. For example, like if you want, if you're taking a different region, you may be able to see a unique pattern of IP address on each region. So if you're taking all the East US, you may be able to see it's been starting with 172 series. If you go to Central India or other region, this may be 20 dot series or a 30 dot series or other series. You cannot move IP address from one region to another region also. You don't have any option to move IP address from one location to another location. In case if you want to do any kind of a connectivity, you may have to go for a VNet peering or different mechanism. We need to use it in a Azure cloud that will ensure that you are able to communicate between the different data center in a different region also. So technically, you don't have option to bring your own public IP address, and you don't have option to assign your own address also, because Microsoft has been assigned a set of pool of IP address in each regions here. So that's important point. So that's important point you need to remember here. So any questions? Okay. Right now you can able to see here. You got a public IP address here. So you may be able to see you have been assigned a public IP address on in a VM side. Now let's create another VM. And at the time of creation of a VM, let's create an option. It's been like none. So we'll see how this is been assigned here. For example, like I'm creating another VM here. I'm just creating VM2 and the same location. Availability zone and all this is been, I'm just keeping is been none and just going with a default one. Now if you go to networking tab, in the networking tab, public IP address I'm assigning as none here. I'm just giving option is been given is been none. Let's see what is been happening at the time after creation. Right now I'm being selected, the option is been public IP address is been none, and just started the initialization here. Let me wait here. So right now the installation has been started here. Right now the deployment of a additional VM it's been configuring here. You can able to see here, just wait. So right now the deployment is in progress here. You can able to see the VM creation has been completed here. Now, if you go back to VMs here, you can able to see there is a VM2 has been created here. Right now, you can able to see there is no IP address has been defined here. See, there is no IP address has been defined here. Why this IP address has been not defined here? Can you comment it on the chat? What is the reason why this has been not taken in? Right? So what is the reason behind like it was set is been none to configuration? Okay, let's hear from others also. Yes, selected is a none here. The other reason IP address is been not selected here. Great. So that's been good. So we're getting some positive answer on the chat. Okay, good. Now, if I need to see this public IP address here, there are, now right now we have seen at the time of a configuration how the public IP address is been assigned. Now let's see. Instead of creating a VM, let's try to assign a public IP address directly. So if you want to assign that, for example, like if you click on public IP address, so public IP address is a separate resource. Okay. Right now, if you select a public IP address here, you are able to see some message here saying that, hey, there is an IP has been created here. This has been assigned to VM1. Now, if you click on this, if you go to the properties of that IP address, you may be able to see here, there is an IP address has been associated here. It's been configured in a network interface card, which has been VM1 here. You can able to see this is already associated. Right now, you can able to see associated. That's the term you can able to see here. Now let's try to create a separate public IP address and let's try to create a IP address here. So let me create a public IP address. Now, the moment when you try to create a public IP address, the moment when you're planning to create a public IP address here, you will be getting a couple of options here. You have an option to create IP version 4 or IP version 6 also. Now, there basically you can able to see there are two storekeeper unit or a SKU you can able to see here. One is called a standard and another one is been going as a basic also. Basically, this is a mode of operation here. Depends upon what is the features you are going to get it in that IP address. There are two mode you can able to configure. Now, in a production scenario, we used to go for a standard mode. In a basic mode, if you're taking a standard mode, by default, there will be a static IP address has been assigned automatically. If you're going basic mode, you have an option to configure dynamic mode or a basic mode. In case if your public IP address has been configured in a basic mode and in a dynamic mode, basic we are selecting a dynamic mode. Every time if the VM is been restarted, your IP will be keep on changing. So that's an important point you need to remember. For example, like if you have been configured a web server and the public IP address has been configured in a basic mode and in a dynamic mode, at any point of time, if the IP address has been restarted, or sorry, the VM has been restarted, your IP address will be changed. So that's an important point you need to remember here. Right now, I'm just configuring a standard mode. Now I'm just giving like where you want to use it. You want to use it internet or internal. I'm saying like it's for internet, and I need to define a resource group. I'm saying like in a existing resource group I've been given, just given create. Now you need to give some label name for your public IP address. I'm just giving public IP address one. I just given create here. Let's wait for that. So right now you can able to see here. So right now the public IP address installation is in progress. It will take hardly a minute time. So right now you can able to see this public IP address has been created here. Let me create one more public IP address here. Let's create another public IP address called public IP address 2 here, like PAP2 here. Now let me create in another region instead of East to US region. Let me create in another region called Central US here. So let me create it here, another public IP address. So second public IP address creation has been created here. Right now you can able to see there is a um, two public IP addresses has been created here. Now how to attach this public IP address to a VM? You can able to use a different methods here. Let me give you a simple method here. So Samesh, that's been another concept like NATing is the concept generally we are using. Basically, it's been configured on in a firewall level or in a LB level, or you will be configuring a Bastion service. Tomorrow we'll be getting to that point. Okay, so we'll be discussing how to configure NATing and that concept. Tomorrow we have a discussion on that. So no need to worry. So right now we have been created a two public IP address here. Let's see how this can be attached to a VM. Simple method. In case if someone want to attach to a VM, right now we have a VM2 is been available, has been not configured with a public IP address here. So you can able to go for a VM2 here. If you go to VM2 properties, you can click on the networking tab. If you click on the networking tab, you can able to see an IP address options here. Click on the network interface card here. If you are clicking on the network interface card, you can click on the IP configuration. Click on the IP configuration here. In the bottom one, you will have something called IP config. Click on that. This will be taking to a point here where you can able to associate. There is a two term has been coming called associate and disassociate. Disassociate means that if you have a IP address even available, if you want to remove that public IP address, that generally is been knowing as disassociate. Associate means that uh, if you want to attach or if you want to map an IP address, the terminology we are using in Azure called associate. So if I need to attach here, you can click on associate button here. Now, once you click on associate button, you will be getting a drop down box. Right now, you can able to see there is a public IP address currently it's been available on in the pool. In the pool, if there is any free public IP address been available, that will be listed here. Right now, if you can able to see here, even we have created a two public IP address. You may be remembering We have created public IP address 1 and public IP address 2 also. But you may be able to see there is only one IP address only here. You can able to see PIP1. Only one is been showing here. What happened to PIP2? Can you comment it on in the chat? Why PIP2 is been not showing? Can you comment it on the chat? The reason it's been like currently the VM1 or VM2 is been created. That has been created in the east to east data center region. But the public IP address PIP2 is been created in another region. So the point you need to remember, your public IP address VM has to be on the same location. You cannot have your VM in one location, your public IP address in another location. That is a very, very, very important point. That important point you need to remember. So this has to be on the same location. So I will just attach here. Now, once I've been attached, in the top side, you may be able to see a floppy disk kind of symbol here. You need to ensure that whatever configuration changes you are making, that is been saved here. So you need to click on the save button. That will attach a IP address to your VM here. So right now you can able to see in the notification area, you're getting a message saying that IP address has been attached here. Right now you can able to see the network interface has been attached here. Hardly it will take 30 seconds to 1 minute for attaching these details. So we need to wait it. So let's wait for that. Right now the network interface has been saved. Now if you go to virtual machine, if you just refresh, you may be able to see VM2 is been attached. It's been attached here. Right now you can able to see it's been attached this IP address here. So you can able to see the IP address has been attached to this VM here. Now connecting to Samesh questions here. What will happen if it is a dynamic mode? Samesh, like if you have configured your IP address in a dynamic mode, for example, like you have a IP address is been configured in a dynamic mode. I hope you can able to see a whiteboard here. For example, like you have a VM is been running here. Public, there is a VM. There is a public IP address is assigned 20.x.x. It's configured in a dynamic mode, and this has been attached to a IAS server. Now, Samish, if you rebooted this server here using a cloud portal, next time, whatever IP address has been assigned here, this will be changed here. Instead of 20, you may be getting 21 series or a different series here. So the problem which you're going to face is like, in case if your IAS is being configured, your application pool is being mapped with old IP address. Now, after reboot, this will be IP address will be changed. No, there will not be any change there. Samish, that's been coming in the picture if you rebooted the VM. In case you've been initiated any kind of a triggering using cloud portal, that difference has been coming. And normally, if you're taking any Windows, that's been configured with a, you can able to use it here. So that's about the public IP address. So tomorrow we'll be discussing about disassociating an IP address here. Now, tomorrow we'll be seeing like um, how to assign a public IP address to Bastion service, how to use a firewall service. We'll try to see how to create a user account. So these are the few points we are planning to have a discussion tomorrow. Over to you, Swirak.
Thank you, Robin, for this session. and the recording of the today's session will be available on our YouTube channel. And I would like to repeat that there is no attendance form for the rest of the days. And if you fail the first day, that should be good enough. And thank you, Robin, again for the session, and thank you all for joining us today with us. And the last session will be tomorrow, same time. I hope everyone who joined today will be joining us tomorrow as well. And thank you again. Have a good day.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.